We took a Mediterranean cruise with the Royal Caribbean in early October 2009. We sailed from Barcelona aboard the fabulous Voyager of the Seas. This magnificent vessel is 1,020 feet long and capable of carrying over 3,100 guests quite comfortably. In fact, the Voyager of the Seas is a floating paradise. But I'm getting a bit ahead of myself. We flew into Barcelona on October the 2nd and spent a wonderful day sightseeing. We took a train from our hotel to downtown and came up next to the beautiful Casa de Patio, one of the two great buildings in Barcelona designed by Antoni Gaudi on the Passeig de Gràcia. Tired from traveling and hungry for adventure, our first stop was a local restaurant called Tapa Tapa, where we nibbled on overpriced morsels while a parade of locals and tourists passed up and down the busy sidewalk. Passeig de Gràcia is regarded as the most expensive street in Barcelona, a commercial mecca. For shopping, this is definitely where the action is. We arrived at the port the next morning, along with about 3,000 other excited travelers eager to begin an 8-day Mediterranean adventure. The Voyager of the Seas is one of the largest passenger ships in the world. Whether you're into fine dining, theater, spa, fitness, casinos, nightclubs, even rock wall climbing and ice skating, the Voyager of the Seas has something for everyone, including lots of comfortable places to relax and do absolutely nothing. While we waited for our luggage to arrive in our stateroom, we wandered throughout the ship, admiring the opulence and luxury of our home for the next week. The La Scala Theater spans 5 decks and seats over 1,300 people. It's hard to imagine this grand theater inside an even grander ship. The port area was absolutely mammoth, accommodating several cruise ships as well as other commercial vessels. As we crossed over the bridge earlier, we left all worries and cares behind. Of course, it takes a lot of grub to keep 3,000 hungry guests satisfied, so we enjoyed watching the heavy equipment moving pallets of food and plenty of drinks into the ship. I think I personally ate about this much on the cruise. This fabulous space is called the Royal Promenade. It is 4 decks high, longer than a football field, and wider than 3 lanes of traffic. The pool bar overlooks the main pool area of the ship and is a cool place to hang out on a hot day, if you can find an empty chair. While all of the newly arriving passengers were busy checking out the lunch buffet, we strolled around the decks. During most days, this area is covered with acres of well-oiled skin, tanning in the Mediterranean sun. On deck 11 forward, you can find the Peekaboo Bridge, where you can look in on the captain. It looks like something right out of Star Trek. Usually the computer drives, but I'd still like to see a person there from time to time. They have an art auction on the first day at sea. For some, it's a chance to finally buy that Picasso that they've always wanted. For others, it's a chance to drink free champagne and act rich. But we didn't buy anything. On the second day, we arrived in Naples. Folks dream all their lives of going on a cruise, and the first time we make landfall, they all abandon ship to visit Pompeii and Mount Vesuvius. As cities go, Naples was a mixture, where the old and the new come together to make a historic and hectic metropolis. Naples is one of the oldest cities in the Western world, so you can find about 2,800 years of history if you look for it. After a nice breakfast overlooking the city and a cup of coffee to go, we set out for the day's adventure in Naples. The ship docked near Castel Nuovo. Charles I of Anjou commissioned it to be built around 1282. Of course, we walked around it to get to the interesting stuff like t-shirts and postcards. We stopped for a short rest and to admire the beauty of Piazza del Plebiscito. It is bounded on the east by the Royal Palace and on the west by the Church of San Francesco di Paola. Walking up and down the narrow streets, we found an endless variety of shops. Seafoods and meats, breads and cheeses. It was a feast for the senses. The third day was spent in Civitavecchia, a city in the province of Rome. We spent a pleasant afternoon wandering through the streets, enjoying the sights and smells of the local markets. Street vendors would sell fresh flowers, herbs, and spices for a fraction of what they would go for in the States. Here, shopping is a leisurely pastime. After exploring Civitavecchia on foot for an afternoon, it was nice to head back to our floating paradise for a relaxing sauna, dip in the pool, dinner, and a show. The Royal Promenade on Deck 5 is a horizontal atrium that has the look and feel of an upscale shopping mall. There are designer boutiques, a sidewalk cafe, a British-style pub, and even a red Morgan sports car that used to belong to Richard Fain, Royal Caribbean's chairman and CEO. At any time of the day or night, you could always count on the Cafe Promenade for delicious coffee and a rich variety of snacks. It was a popular rendezvous and a place to see and be seen. The formal dining rooms are so incredibly luxurious they are a bit hard to describe. They cover 3 levels and offer 4-course meals with impeccable service. When there's nothing else to do, you can still do nothing in style. In Livorno, we stopped at a tourist booth to ask about transportation options to get to Pisa. Figuring out the bus routes, schedules, and ticket costs wasn't always easy. We arrived in Pisa and took a crowded local bus to Piazza del Duomo to see the Leaning Tower of Pisa. Stepping off the bus and looking through the main entrance, we caught our first glimpse of the Piazza del Miracoli, the Square of Miracles. The heart of the piazza is the Duomo, the medieval cathedral called Santa Maria Assunta, or St. Mary of the Assumption. An impressive structure built in the Romanesque architectural style of medieval Europe, and entered through massive bronze doors that portray biblical events. In front of the Duomo stands the equally impressive Baptistry of St. John. The Tower of Pisa was a work of art, performed in 3 stages over a period of about 177 years, beginning in 1173. It was built to be a campanile, or freestanding bell tower, for the nearby cathedral. Now it's a World Heritage Site that draws tourists from all over the world to the Piazza del Miracoli, to climb its 296 steps and take trick photographs pretending to prop up the Leaning Tower. Later that evening, back aboard ship with our dinner companions, we cheered on the dining staff as they gave a little performance at the end of the meal. The next morning we arrived in Villafrance, near the city of Nice, and the small but opulent sovereign city-state known as the Principality of Monaco. Villafrance itself is part of the extended urban community called Nice Côte d'Azur, and it has a breathtaking coastline. It is a lovely city with a beautiful city center that is interesting to walk through. We took a local bus to Nice, about 20 minutes away, but well worth the trip. Whether it is walking through interesting markets and shops that you're after, or relaxing in a public garden or on the beach, Nice seems to have it all. After a long day's excursion, it was always nice to make our way back to our ship and relax in the Windjammer dining room, admiring the view and enjoying some refreshments. As the sun went down on our last day at sea, we looked out over the waves with joy for having experienced a Mediterranean cruise, and a longing to do it again. Now it was moving through the dark waters, taking us back to Barcelona and the end of our journey. But the fun didn't end when we stepped off the ship. We still had a day of sightseeing and adventure ahead of us in Barcelona. It felt like we'd walked from one end of the city to the other, admiring cathedrals, watching street performers, and just milling around shops. For 8 days and 7 nights, the Voyager of the Seas had been our floating home away from home, as we visited ports in Italy and France. It was a delightful trip, one that we shall never forget, and these have only been some of the highlights.